let's start the show.
Hey, it's Thursday, January 11th, 2018. That means it's time for This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Welcome into This Is Only a Test. You may not know it's This Is Only a Test based on the theme. Yeah, that was a little different.
All right, so yes, we are a half hour late starting because we did have some audio problems, which apparently have not ceased.
They don't know it's a podcast. They don't know when we're recording this.
I'm just saying that I'm filling them in on the stress that was the last half hour of our lives. However, bear with us. We will make it through this show.
Yeah, the audio cues may not be up to Jeremy's usually level of amazingness, but it'll be fine. Hey, I'm Kishore. And Jeremy, our co-host as always, is here.
Greetings.
And we have a special guest, Mike. Welcome back to the show.
It's awesome to be back. I'm in the Three Timers Club, basically, in this studio.
This studio alone.
Yeah.
Mike Mika from Other Ocean.
Yes. Yeah, Other Ocean. Software developer extraordinaire.
Legendary
He is
game developer.
He has had many brushes with fame. Initially, from converting Donkey Kong, Mario to a female character for his daughter.
Yep.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
And then again with as the lead developer on IDARB.
Yep, exactly. That one did pretty well.
Designer, lead developer. I mean,
designer.
whatever.
I actually programmed it.
There you go.
It was one of two people really coding that thing, and we just did it in our spare time and turned it into something awesome.
The game that made my son want an Xbox.
See, like Microsoft should pay us more. I hear that a lot. Like, okay,
do you?
Yeah, I do actually. People bought an Xbox to play IDAR because it's not on anything else really.
Right.
So.
Well, it's on Windows now.
It is on Windows, but a lot of people are like, I don't. Where's the store for Windows?
Exactly.
Fair point. Norm is away. Norm and Joey are in New Zealand. Joey is still looking for recommendations for good breweries to go to in Wellington, so help him out. They're shooting something. I actually kind of don't know what. But I believe they will be back for 2 weeks. So Norm left me and Jeremy in charge.
Yeah.
And you're going to get what you're going to get.
That's right.
And we're going to start off by breaking into the biggest news of this week in the VR Minute.
Oh my gosh. So this is going to sound bad, right? Let's see.
The VR.
Oh my god. What is happening? I am so sorry. We should just not do any more audio cues.
Yeah, we might abandon the audio cues.
we should just act them out.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, well, welcome to the VR Minute, the all new VR Minute. And the reason we're cutting right into the VR Minute is we have some new hardware to talk about, the Vive Pro.
Yeah, it's a big deal, right? I mean, because nobody expected much this year because Oculus has been on the record saying that they weren't going to do any kind of new headset this year. So you would think HTC could just lay low and do what they're doing, let the market improve before they release new hardware. But no, here we go. It's like the Vive 1.5.
It even caught you and Norm off guard, and you're sort of in there. You're official VR journalists at this point. And I saw a Slack message from you a couple days ago about the announcement coming out, and it seemed like you were caught off guard. Is that right?
Oh yeah. No, I didn't expect this at all. So what they've done is, the biggest news is that they've improved the resolution. So,
yeah. So we're going up to what resolution?
Well, currently it's 1080 per 1200 per eye with the Vive and the Rift, and the new Vive Pro will have the same resolution as the Samsung Odyssey, the Windows Mixed Reality headset, which is 1440 by 1600 per eye, which is a good leap. You know, it's not going to be HD. You can't tell it's a screen anymore, but it's a good leap, and I'm excited for this. It's a bigger leap than, for instance, like DK2 to the release, Rift.
There's a good infographic you source that we'll put in the show notes that shows how big of a leap it is.
It's a good leap. It's going to make text a little bit easier to read, like that kind of thing.
I think just to talk about it a little bit more, I read an article that said in order to get to the point where it's retinal level in VR, we're talking about going to like the equivalent of something like akin to 16K to get to that retinal level. So it's not like that is something that we can expect anytime soon. But what are the advantages of getting up to this higher resolution beyond things being a little bit sharper?
Well, I mean that's largely it. Like we're getting crisper text. We're getting because of this increased resolution, you're also reducing the space between the pixels. So you reduce what they call the screen door effect. Yeah. Which you see the black lines that is between the pixels. So there's less of that. But there's more improvements beyond the optics, beyond the actual displays on this, and that is they're now basically including the Pro Audio headset, so it has audio gear on there, which the Vive always should have had.
It should have. That was always that bothered me the most. And when Sony launched their VR headset, I thought what they had done was really perfect for the price, including that audio advantage. So having that here is going to be great.
Mm-hmm. I think the integrated audio is wonderful. Like, we have yet to test it out, so we don't know how good it sounds, but based off initial reactions from a number of VR outlets trying them out, they said the audio sounds good. They did confirm that the headphones are detachable, so you can...
Wait, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it went back and forth, and Road to VR did confirm in talking with HTC they are detachable.
Now, is audio all still in software, or are they doing any sort of hardware advantage for this?
Don't know.
That's what I'm kind of curious about, because it's you throw all that audio work onto the PC or whatever you're using to drive this, and that takes a lot of power to do it right.
Does it?
Yeah, so it's like I was expecting, at least this round, or at least by the next round, we're going to see a lot more audio processing done external, either with the device or somewhere else. So I'm kind of interested to see what they're doing here.
So that it looks like a sound card, essentially, to the computer?
Yeah, and it's processing a lot of the audio, positional audio, and everything else that's like a pretty complicated math and everything that has to go on for this stuff. Just as much as you do for like frame rate, you want that for your audio as well, to make sure that you're getting all this positional audio as clean and clear and fast as you want.
I didn't get a sense, I mean, this is reading between the lines, I didn't get a sense from the presentation that they made changes to the audio hardware. But I have no confirmation of that. That's me reading between the lines, because I think if they did, it would have been mentioned pretty clearly up front. But they talked about sound quality, the ergonomics of the headphones. That leads me to believe there isn't anything there.
It appears to be the same lenses, the same general optics. So you've still got the Fresnel lenses, so you've still got the God rays. That they haven't found a way to get rid of that yet.
Do you think this resolution is going to solve that Mira problem that they talk about? Like, that's the anti-aliasing thing.
No. From what I've read, like that's now the problem. It's like now that you have this higher resolution, you're going to deal with aliasing problems, because we still need a lot of processing power, and now you need more to do VR properly. So
what's the refresh? Do you know the refresh rate of the screens?
I assume it's still 90.
Okay.
I don't think they made a change to that.
Okay.
But the other big news is that there will be a first-party wireless solution.
Oh wait, let's hold on the wireless solution, because I want to talk
part of the same thing.
Yeah, I know it's part of the same thing, but I feel like the wireless is sort of the big component of this. Let's talk about the ergonomics and a couple other features. There is a second pass-through camera on front versus the original Vive that just has the one.
Yeah, that's curious, right? Because nobody used the first one.
Exactly. So why two?
Why double down?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense from a stereo standpoint. Now they can do actual 3D video, but I'm not sure that anyone's going to actually incorporate it.
Is there any sense that with the second camera, maybe this is leading them towards inside-out tracking?
I don't know. I mean, speaking of tracking, they have the new sensors on it. So the SteamVR 2.0 standard, which this will not come with lighthouses or controllers, but it will be ready for the new lighthouses when they're ready. So it has the new standard on for the sensors. So that's good. They are definitely investing in that. I don't see lighthouse going anywhere soon.
Are the two cameras like per eye style positioned as if they're like for each eye for a stereo input?
I mean, yeah, they look sort of eye distance apart. The first Vive had a single camera in the center, towards the bottom. These are more vertically centered, and
So could it be a mixed reality play at all down the road?
It could be, but I think they're dependent on the developers actually doing something with this. And Vive hasn't been all about incentivizing developers in the same way that Oculus has. So I'm wondering if they have anything for them, because they didn't seem to show anything that used the pass-through cameras in a new way. So
Yeah.
I think this is an open thing that I want to hear about. Let's talk about Base Station 2.0. I know I'm saving the wireless thing. Base Station 2.0, they just talked about it. They didn't really say when it was shipping or anything else like that.
They announced it a while back.
Yeah.
But nothing had come out with the new sensors yet. So this is but Valve's suggestion was anyone doing VR who's working on the Vive platform should, and they're making hardware, go with the new sensors. So it makes perfect sense that they've used them here. They support a wider range. So potentially 10 meters by 10 meters. And,
That's massive.
Yeah.
and also 4 lighthouses. Like the current Vive only supports the 2. So it is massive. Like it is potentially much
So
larger.
does that mean to you like an enterprise play? This isn't really about like the consumer at home.
They've made that play. They have an enterprise package already for Vive, which comes with its own dedicated support, phone line that you can call, and a license to do retail, actual work. So I'm sure that this will be a part of that too.
But 10 by 10 is so massive. Like 10 by 10 in
Yeah.
San Francisco is like 3 families live in that big of a
I know.
space, right?
Totally.
Okay, let's get to the.
You're excited about the wireless aspect.
Well, actually, I'm going to hold off one more thing. Sorry,
The
one
end
more
of the
thing.
show. We're talking about wireless at the end of the show.
Ergonomics.
Yeah.
I mean, this is basically the Vive with the updated head strap, except
Right.
they've made some additions to it as well. It seems like
have they?
they have the dial on the back, but it seems seated a little bit lower, and there's a pad back there which wasn't there on the front. They claim in the initial video, and I heard this from a couple reviewers, that it's a little bit more, even more balanced than the additional head strap. They move the center of gravity a little bit back. Everyone always complained about the Vive being a little bit front heavy. That's one of those things we just have to test out and see how it feels. But from what I've read so far, the ergonomics are definitely improved. It feels lighter on your face, which is one of my chief complaints about the Vive to begin with.
Oh, the Vive standard without the Pro audio strap. Yeah, totally. That was
Even with the
problem.
Pro audio strap, I still feel like it's heavy. So if
It's just
they
better
made,
supported.
yeah. So I think if they made improvements on that,
I don't know. I just feel like that if you right now the word ergonomic doesn't need to be mentioned in the VR space. I mean,
Why?
Because we're just so far away from it. We're all strapping bricks to the front of our face for the enjoyment of it's worth it. That's great, but it's like it is not comfortable.
I totally disagree, because I mean I don't take ergonomics in the way they talk about ergonomics in terms of like desk setup and all of that kind of stuff, but they're using it for comfort. It's a fancy word for comfort, and if you're uncomfortable in VR, you're not going to be able to stay in it for more than 15-20 minutes.
It's a trade-off. Like if it's worth it to be in VR, then you'll do it. You'll put up with it. But there's no way you would wear a VR headset for any other reason. Like it's just uncomfortable. You're cut off from the world. It's heavy. You get sweaty. There's clearly pixelation. There's a lot of problems that when we're 10 years from now looking back on this, you're gonna try to tell me that it was ergonomically sound?
No. I'm not trying to tell you that. I'm saying that the current Vive, even with the deluxe head strap, I have a hard time getting past about a half hour.
Yeah.
With it on. And if these improvements take us from a half hour to 45 minutes, that sounds trivial, but that's a big deal.
Dude, I spent a lot longer than that. I mean, I just watched Top Gun 2 in VR.
Yeah. We did a podcast
Or not Top
in
Gun
VR.
2.
I was going to go like, Top Gun 2?
No, that would have been like
Maybe that's the killer app VR needs, is Top Gun 2.
We buried the lead. No, Top Gun 3D.
All right. Let's talk about wireless adapters.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a first-party wireless adapter. There you go.
How are you not so over the moon excited about this?
Because I don't spend enough a long enough time in VR for it to really matter that much. Maybe I've gotten used to cable management. I do want it. I just don't know if I'm willing to pay for it.
How much is it? What are we talking about?
We have no prices on
Nobody
anything.
knows.
Because this is huge for me, because I'm the guy that trips over the cables all the time, no matter how many times I play. I've almost lost several laptops to it and everything else. So it's like, to me, decoupling this is a huge leap.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's just going to be expensive.
It also, no doubt. I think we're going to talk about price next, but I think wireless also, to me, opens up the idea of where this can be.
Yeah.
Like in my house right now, it has to be in my office. Like bar none.
Uh-huh.
Now, if it's wireless, I'm going to feel a lot more open about porting it to my living room. And I know that means moving the computer in there too.
Okay.
But in my living room, I don't want a bunch of cables. I'm not going to do cable management with a VR setup in my living room. It needs to be wireless if it's going to be there. And I think this opens the door to that. I get it. It's not like inside out tracking can do it anywhere. But that's where the Vive needs to live. I think for most people with standard homes, living room's the biggest space in their house, generally speaking. I mean, most people aren't dedicating bedrooms just to VR. I know there are probably a few listeners that do.
I'm surprised you feel that way, actually, that you need it to be wireless for it to be in the living room. Because I have my Vive in the living room, and it's true the cables are a hassle, but the cables take up the space between me and the computer or whoever's using VR. And no one's going to be in that space anyway, because that's the VR realm. You don't want to enter that space, or you'll get hit in the face.
I'm in the same boat with you, because honestly, for me, the family thing is with the cables, we have to have a supervisor. So if the kids want to use it, there has to be a supervisor around. Without cables, less worried about supervising. They can just get in and start playing. And I'm not worried about what they're going to step over, smash, or do whatever, what they're going to pull out of what system or anything like that. Sure, they're going to bump into things or do whatever, but it's better than them pulling a PC down onto the floor.
It's also more elegant.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a step forward in and of itself. I also think probably the bigger play is I don't think the Vive Pro is something that current Vive users are all going to jump on board for to upgrade to, regardless of what the price is, because there just isn't quite enough there. That they're offering that you can't get through other means. Like you can just buy the deluxe strap to get the ergonomic effects. Ergonomics. I'm going to see if I can irritate Jeremy that way. But buying a wireless adapter for your current Vive, that's interesting. I mean, it depends on how much.
Yes, exactly.
But I think that's something that people might invest in. I have a friend who was posting last night. He's like, he's probably not going to buy the Vive Pro, but the wireless thing he might invest in, depending on what the price point is.
And for me, it's one step closer to the shared experience VR that I'm looking for. Like if we can get multiple people in one singular shared experience without cables getting in the way and you're moving around a room together, that's exciting for me, and that means we're getting that much closer to having that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You do really need wireless for that. Otherwise, you're doing a weird cable dance. The wireless adapter won't be available until Q3, they're saying, whereas the Vive Pro should be available sooner than that.
No, they intentionally did not mention price. The $ never came up in the presentation. Do you have any guesses? Both for what you think it's going to be and what it would need to be for you to
keep in mind
buy.
There are no base stations, no lighthouses, and no controllers, so it's just the headset. I don't even think you can buy the Vive like that right now.
No.
So there's no precedent for this. But I'm guessing $500.
What?
What do you think? That's low or high?
I think it's way low.
It's just the headset.
I get it, what it is.
Okay.
I just think the price they're going to come out with is going to be higher than that. So when Vive came out, it was $800.
You got to understand this. The Samsung Galaxy Odyssey is $400, right?
Yeah. Well, Vive hasn't exactly responded to market pressures in the same way that Oculus has. They haven't been as worried about price.
Well,
seemingly.
I think they need to be, and that's why I'm thinking they're going to try to be more competitive. I think the 500 mark sounds about right to me. I think they kind of need to be there, especially if this is just an interim model we're looking at.
I'm going to be shocked if it's below $700.
700.
Yeah.
700.
Wow. All right.
I think they really made a big deal about this resolution play, and I don't think you make as big of a deal about this, then don't announce the price.
The announcement video doesn't even mention resolution. That's the weird thing. They say improved optics,
but the actual presentation, that's all they talk about.
Oh, I didn't actually watch that. Okay.
So, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but this is missing something to upgrade. I mean, it doesn't have knuckles, which is what I think everyone wants if in order to upgrade, along with the better resolution, increased comfort, all of that kind of stuff. But still not a bad announcement and a great leap forward. Not the only wireless announcement at CES. TPcast.
New TPcast 2.0. Is that what it is? It's the 2.0? Anyway, they've upgraded their TPcast products.
TPcast Plus is, I think,
That's
what
what
they're calling it.
So if you haven't jumped on the TPcast and you're thinking about it, you're in luck because they've improved it. Not only have they just announced the product for the Rift, but you can now will be able to get TPcast that has full microphone support. So that's been a problem.
How do you think this is going to play with, Vive coming out with their own wireless adapter? Do you think that's going to kill TPcast's market around this?
I imagine that TPcast wasn't happy to see that announcement. But I don't know. I mean,
what's the improvements in the 2.0?
Well, the first one didn't support the microphone.
So the microphone. But is there anything else beyond that?
You don't. It's no longer a router. Like, do you know how that worked? It came with like a actual Ethernet router.
That's good.
But so now it's just a wireless dongle.
Okay.
A little USB stick that actually does the USB transmissions. So that is good.
Yeah, and Vive didn't partner with TPcast. They partnered with DisplayLink for the wireless adapter in the Vive Pro. So I'm not sure what this means for TPcast at all. It'll be interesting to actually interview them and talk to them about what their reactions are to the Vive announcement, because I think it's natural to go to a manufacturer of the headset to buy your wireless adapter rather than third party. So hopefully this doesn't just kill off TPcast.
Well, the price might play a point in that, right? So
this is true.
Vive might have like a 3 times cost, and you're like, you know what? Gotta go with TPcast.
Plus, TPcast is the only one doing it for the Rift.
Yeah, this is true. But I think most Rift users are probably using it in the office where it's not as big of a deal to go wireless. And Oculus Go is coming out this year. And Oculus Go made an announcement as well in terms of they don't really have a presence at CES as I understand it, but they did make an announcement of who is manufacturing the Oculus Go headset.
Yeah, who is that? Xiaomi?
How do you pronounce it?
I don't know.
This isn't the pronunciation cast.
Xiaomi. Yeah, that's it. So there's really no new news about Oculus Go. I'm excited for Oculus Go, and I wish that there would be more news about it. This is the $200.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all-in-one Oculus headset, which has no motion tracking. It has no motion track controllers, but it is basically like a Gear VR that is all-in-one. So there's no phone. Like, it's just a headset that you throw on. Presumably, it's just going to be VR everything. Just you put it on and you're instantly in VR. There'll be some interface to a storefront. You'll be able to buy things. You never have to exit out to an app and manage that whole aspect. So I'm excited for it. I've never, since I've been in VR, I've really only concentrated on the PC side. I haven't had too much exposure to the Gear VR side, the whole mobile side of VR. So I'm excited to see what all that's about. So now we're one step closer to the release of that, since they've announced the partnership with the manufacturer, Xiaomi.
All right. I'm going to go with Xiaomi.
All right.
Xiaomi. What sounds better if you're a tech company?
Maybe it's Show Me.
Show Me. Wow. It should be Show Me. I hope it is. Google made an announcement. Google and Lenovo made an announcement about a VR headset launching in mid-2018. The Mirage Solo. Solo. I guess that's a word for 2018 is Solo this year.
It's the word of 2018.
So this is basically the Oculus Go version?
It is a similar Oculus Go. They claim like something akin to inside-out tracking, but not quite inside-out tracking.
Well, no, it is, right? But the problem is that there's no software for it. So it'll support inside-out tracking for the headset, but it doesn't have tracked controllers. So
what's the point?
It has your little pointer device that they all have now. But I'll be curious to see what software takes advantage of the inside-out tracking that the headset can do. We'll see.
They said the price is somewhere, or The Verge reported the price will be under $400. But I don't know. I realize this is a step up from what the Oculus Go will be. But that's a factor of 2 difference for probably what's going to be a very similar in-game experience to start off with.
Right.
So I don't know how that's going to go over.
Well, that's been my problem with all these platforms. They don't launch with things that show you what they're good at. They launch with all the same things, and then they feel like one version has a poor version of another game or whatever. And like, we're looking at this thing, you look at the hardware, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what it really does. And I doubt we'll see anything that really shows that off. And then it's just another thing you pile on in your VR pile, looking for that next headset that does something cool. And like, that's what's kind of frustrating about all these right now, is they're not showing you what they do very well.
You can't see it off camera, but there is a VR pile directly to my right. It is a giant VR pile.
Shameful.
Everybody has a VR pile who's into this.
Mike, what have you seen? Have you spent much time in VR over the past couple of years?
I have. You know, like because I do games, like we've been spending a lot of time in the PlayStation world and what's going on there. And also, we do a lot of R&D for things. And I get myself in trouble a lot because I'll mention things that are cool, and then I get a call like a week later going like, "You don't talk about that." But
so Mike is getting ready to get some phone calls based on what he's about to say.
But you know, it's one of these things where inside out tracking is exciting. It's not where it needs to be right now, and but the roadmap is really good, and that's one that we're spending a little time looking into right now. And standalone devices, again, back to the wireless and everything else. I think Vive and all these things are great for, you know, putting out, like, especially for high-end users, but these more casual standalone devices are really exciting because the numbers and the price and everything else is just great for us as a game company, you know, what we can put out there. But we keep running into all these problems, and honestly, like we were just even last week, we get opportunities with large corporations that are like, here's what we want to do, here's our hardware, and here's what it can do. You get it, and you look at it, and you're like, when's it going to do that? And they don't have an answer. They don't even know. They put hardware in, but they don't even know how it's going to work, and they haven't even really solved the problem. There's this big rush to put all these, like, basically different ways to track controllers, different ways to track motion and your position, all this stuff, but they have no, like, to your point, Jeremy, they have no solution for that yet to really show off how it works. Or I don't even know if they actually know how they're going to solve it. They're actually trying to get the hardware out there and hope other people solve it.
Right. Chicken and egg
so that's why they're calling us, because they're like, oh, you tell us. And I've had this situation many times before in games where, like, Nintendo and these guys are like, they would throw us things like a printer or whatever and say, like, make it work. And it's like, well, do you have any drivers? And they're like, can you make some? You know?
Oh, wow.
And it's like, we're experiencing that all over again with VR. So we're getting a lot of those situations where it's like, can you make it do it? What it's supposed to do? We'll put the hardware in. Can you make it do it? And that's not where we want to be right now, especially if this thing's going to move quickly forward. Everybody needs to be working together and sharing more resources and solving these problems. So right now I'm in this like weird funk on VR. I was so into VR last year. And then I'm just like getting into this funk where it's like they're not solving problems fast enough to make it exciting for us to build content in a very effective way, in a very quick, efficient way.
Given that, would you like them to slow down some of the hardware iterations?
Yes. Because I don't think they've actually fully baked a lot of stuff. They move on to the next thing when they just feel nobody's adopting it. So it isn't because it's a really bad solution or anything like that. They just keep moving on until they find somebody who's going to just, you know, do something with what they're putting in. So I think they're rotating a lot. They're trying to find cost effectiveness in certain things. And so there's all this experimenting going on, and it's really hard for us to put an investment down and say, yeah, we're going to spend $1 million on a game and like make a killer app, and then know that market's, like, even just what we can do is going to change like every month as we develop. It's kind of challenging.
What of the release titles have impressed you about from VR on any platform?
You know, like I'm always left of center on some stuff or whatever, but like I do love Bridge Crew.
You did like that?
I did like it. I think it's more complicated than what it should be, like for a casual user or whatever. But for me, I like that. I enjoyed it, and I like the cross-platform aspect of it. And that's why I kind of really got into it with, is like, that's to me what it was like to pretend to be, when I was a kid, play Star Trek and everything like that. So now we get to have the tools to play that. I think it could be better, of course, and everything like that. And of course, I like Rick and Morty VR, which was just dumb and fun and everything like that. But like nothing. This is that line where I have to draw where it's like I always get in trouble, but it's like I've seen demos that, like, it's like Blade Runner. Like, I've seen things you wouldn't believe, right? I've seen some incredible demos like that. They woo you with these demos. Like, I'll go in with, like, you know, sign 30 pages of an NDA, go in and they show you this amazing demo, and you're like, I can make 1,000 things with this technology, and then you never get that technology. It's like they really get you excited for it, and you leave the room. And then you're waiting and waiting, and they send you hardware that's not even like remotely close to where it needs to be, and that sort of thing. So that's just killing me right now, because like there's things I could talk about that I played last year that I thought were amazing. I don't know if they'll ever come out, or if the hardware is ever going to really support it. And the specs changing constantly.
I feel like this might be the 2018 story of Magic Leap.
It might be, right? So that's a really big question. There's a lot of people have seen what Magic Leap can do and all this sort of stuff, but like between now and when that thing comes out, what's really going to stick?
It seems like social is such a big deal, and none of the majors have nailed that yet.
No.
They haven't even incorporated it yet, really.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? Like in a real metaverse kind of way, where everyone can get together in some native environment.
You're hitting the nail on the head. We're actually we're having conversations. We're asking us if we can build that for anything we do, and it's like that's a huge
That's a
undertaking.
big deal.
Like no, and they're also asking developers to roll their own every time. And I think this needs to be something that's a more universal platform that comes from high up and everybody uses, rather than, okay, everybody make their own ecosystems and hopefully it works. Again, back to we need to all be working together to make this great, not individually trying to like do our best and never achieve the target.
Making your own drivers.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Jeremy, let me see if I can interest you in a version of social VR.
Okay.
How about multiplayer wireless VR?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, DisplayLink, who did the wireless adapter, did a demo with one of your favorite games of last year, Racket NX.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You were really pushing that game.
Oh, I mean, I liked it. It's a
Yeah,
good game.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for reasons. But they set up a green screen area with wireless, multiple people in VR with wireless adapters playing Racket NX. This is a racquetball Tron combination game.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to
That's
describe
good.
it.
It's like a 360 racquetball.
And people seem to really love the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that gives me hope for VR arcade more
Yes.
than it does for at home, which I actually
Right.
am functionally more excited about these days.
But going out?
Yeah, going out to VR arcade experiences ever since, we saw the video of Mario Kart VR in the actual car. And it just seems to make sense. And hearing, Steve Lin coming back from Japan and talking about the VR arcade experiences, I would love to be able to play Racket NX at a VR arcade.
That sounds stupid.
with wireless.
That sounds dumb.
What?
Yeah, I'm afraid that sounds dumb, Kishore, because it doesn't bring anything more to the table that you can't do at home. Like, Racket NX is great and in a bar or at home, but what Mario Kart does differently is like they actually give you some hardware that you can use that it enhances the experience that you don't have at home.
Sure,
So-
but multiplayer VR where you're actually there
Yeah.
with somebody too?
You mean like in the next cubicle or something? Yeah, I don't know. There's something to be said for that. But I think that's probably like every multiplayer game. That's just going to happen at home. And then you're going to have like the major championships like they did with Echo Arena at Oculus Connect this past year, where they brought all the big players and they actually got up on stage and they played together. And it was like a real tournament that everyone got to watch. Like that'll happen. I think that's interesting. I would love for location-based VR to be a thing, but it's more going to be like the Void.
That's what it's
That's
going to
gonna
be.
be.
In fact, I can talk about one thing I was working on that eventually just got canceled because it was going to be too expensive. But it was essentially that. Like we started at the remember the old Vegas Star Trek experience.
Oh,
So
yeah,
we
and the
started
Hilton.
there. Like, what can VR?
I totally missed that. Like I wish I'd gone.
So good. You would have loved it. They had this amazing moment where you would kind of go in and you get teleported to the Enterprise, and it's a cool trick of hand and everything else. So we had a client. We started with that concept and like, how do we take that further with VR? So the whole thing that we were working on is like you kind of go in. It's the old BattleTech Center sort of thing where you suit up, you put your helmet on. Your helmet has the visor, which is the VR thing. It goes on, and the things we're trying to solve is the person who's putting the helmet on you. As soon as it goes on and the thing and your display comes in or anything like that, you see them through now the display, and they're still there. But so we had to come up with a way to costume the person, or it's like a robot that's helping you do this stuff or whatever. So then they move you around. So you're in a hangar and you go out to basically. It was really cool previous stuff, but it's like you go out to a hangar, there's all these ships, like imagine like X-Wings, and you're being ushered around and they're helping get in. There's actually props there. They're basically just wooden husks, but to you, this is this amazing hangar. And like these things are all motion controlled seats and everything like that. And they put you in and everything like that, and you're able to look around, you see your buddies across the way and everything like that because you're in the helmet and it just looks like them and everything. You're thumbing up and everything like that. They close the cockpit, which is just this plywood thing, but you feel it and you have all the switches where they're supposed to be. And then you just have this epic space battle. And then you come land them back in and they get you out and they come in, they take the flight suit off in the thing, and it just felt like you went through this seamless experience.
Yeah.
Going in there and coming out. And so all that prop work, all that synchronization with everything, that was like the hard tech to solve, and that was going to be very expensive, but it's all there. Like that stuff exists, and and other people are working on this same kind of thing and trying to build it out to where the minute you walk through a door, you feel like you're transported somewhere, and then from that moment on, you're just interacting with things that feels real and like in that.
Did they let you see the actual reality of the room?
No, like the users never get to see that.
Yeah.
So they are seeing everything through VR, and it just everything's tangible. It feels right. Like when you're going up the steps, there's somebody's helping you go up the steps, but the steps are there, and you look down, you see these metal steps. It's just blocks, all that kind of stuff. It's just a marked out weird room, but you'll never see that.
I would pay good money for that.
Yeah,
and it's a big multiplayer experience.
Yeah, and the Void I think opened a Star Wars experience in Anaheim just recently.
Yeah, have you been down to see that yet?
I haven't seen it yet, and I can't wait to go down. I got offered tickets, but I couldn't get down there. It's the worst.
Has your brother tried it?
I don't know yet. I'm going to find out soon. I think I might be seeing him this weekend.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great. I can't wait.
It sounds
for that.
so
Reviews
good.
have been mixed, from what I can tell.
Really?
Of the experience so far.
The experience. I've only done a Void style experience once, and it was for a local company that's just prototyping their thing, and it blew my mind. I mean, it was like next level VR. It really was. I didn't think we were going to do this year. It was like next level. And that's what the Void's doing with a budget. I'd love to do any of their stuff.
Well, their motion tracking tech is basically using film motion tracking tech they're using on set now, which is super fast and high acquisition rates and everything like that. So this stuff just all works. You can tag anything, and as it moves, you can relate it in full space for VR and everything. It just works out perfect. It maps 1-to-1. And so for those destinations, I think that's where it's really going to pay off. And that whole, like what Star Trek did that was really cool is like you go into this elevator, and then suddenly the lights all go out and steam kind of comes up, and then you hear like the transport sounds. What they're doing at that time is they're rotating the room that you're in. And then they open these doors, and suddenly you're you're basically on the Enterprise. And you're like, wait, the door we just came in, now we're on the Enterprise. And then you look down, you're on the teleporters, all that stuff. Doing that stuff with VR and like trying to get people convinced that they're experiencing that. Like with the Void, they have that same space they reuse over and over. Like you walk through a hallway, you don't realize you're slowly turning, come back to the same space over and over. So the columns are trees, columns are now columns in a building, columns are just like something like other aspect.
With VR, you should be able to do it in a smaller physical space than they had. Like that Star Trek space in Hilton was actually surprisingly big.
Yep.
For as much, compared to other,
with VR, you can trick the mind so much easier and have a smaller space, and it just works. You don't question it.
Yeah, no, I always say like VR they flipped suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
So you now have to like retain belief.
Yeah.
Or else you're going to hurt yourself.
Exactly.
I think before long we're going to be able to scan our houses, the interiors of any space with nice fidelity, and then be able to map environments onto that and do a Void style thing in your living room.
That I think is ideally where we should be going, because that's like arcade translations to home in the early 80s. Like, the home version won't be as good as the destination, but you're still going to get something similar.
Exactly.
With inside out tracking and mixed reality headsets, like on the horizon where it's actually true mixed reality, the tools that come with these devices actually do that now. They map your spaces and you see them in 3D. They're not the best resolution or anything like that, but it's kind of cool. And it goes back to an early demo. One of the first VR demos I did with mixed reality, which blew my mind, was the out-of-body experience demo. I don't know if you guys did this. I don't know if it was Vive or somebody else. It was a rigged up headset, and like I was given a controller, and I'm saying I hadn't done VR yet really, so this was already mind-blowing to me. I put this headset on, I'm like, oh, it's the same room I'm in, but now I can tell it's 3D. They're like, move forward. So I move forward, and they're like, turn around. And I see myself being acquired live from 3D cameras. I'm all kind of bumpy and weird looking, but it's like, so I'm like, immediately I go around, I'm like, oh man, like I look like that? Like this looks awful. Like that's my butt? Like, oh, it's great. But it was a weird out-of-body experience to be moving around, seeing my hands moving, but I'm not associated with my position and stuff like that. So that stuff's there, and it's getting better and better, but it's just not been consumer-friendly enough yet.
All right. So we're at the not excited anymore phase, heading into a more excited than ever phase.
Yeah, because all the pieces are there, but nobody's doing anything with it, and it's driving me crazy.
It's almost like the ecosystem of like the business ecosystem needs to improve. It's not it's not a technology problem.
Yeah, we're gonna run into that problem that games have a lot, where people are like, I got burned in VR. I put millions in, I did all stuff. It's like, but like if you put millions in, you should have known this was a long burn. Like it wasn't gonna be solved in like 5 years. It was gonna be solved in 20. And like you have to be in for the long haul. And if you can't do that, don't just back away from VR. Let somebody else take the lead and put the money in, because it's really, we're getting so close. And like you're talking about like with the Interim 1.5 on the Vive, right? Like we have to have those. We have to support those. We got to try to be excited about that stuff, because if we're not, investors and where all the money's coming from is going to be like, okay, we tried, it's done. It's 3D TVs all over.
Maybe the 90s, 80s again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're recording this on a Wednesday. CES is still happening. There's probably going to be more VR, AR, MR, GR, I'm sure is going to be a new thing. I don't know. I'm just making up letters now. That'll come out, and we'll probably talk about them in more depth next week. But for now, we're going to move on to tech news. We're not going to do a sound cue.
No, we're not.
But I'll just say technology news. All right, here we are. We're in tech news now. And I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to give you a rundown of things I've heard of so far from CES, and I want to get your reaction to the concept and idea.
Okay.
And we're going to try to do this in a non-cynical way. So I'm not going to be talking about smart bathtubs and all of those ridiculous products that you see at CES. And we're only a couple days in, so this is just like a limited view based on what I've read so far. But I'll give you my first thing. Obviously, the biggest news coming out of CES is that tech journalists can't handle rain. That's the biggest news coming out of CES so far. But I'm going to start with AR glasses because that seems like an area that there's been a lot of development in. The product that caught my eye the most is the View 6.
Yeah.
So imagine a thick-rimmed pair of glasses, and the rim is so thick that on the sides here at the temple, there's enough room for a little swipe bar. It actually puts the screen up in the lens. It looks like you're almost wearing like sunglasses, and it displays a Google Glass-like scene in that lens. It's integrated with Amazon Alexa, so you have that capability. It even has a browser in it. Firefox is built in, so you can actually browse the web. And there's limited things that you can do. You can browse photos, that kind of stuff. And it has a camera, so you can take pictures of the world, but it doesn't appear to the people around you like you're wearing Google Glass.
Right. It doesn't look ultra techy.
Initial reactions.
I'm intrigued. First of all, I'm intrigued because The Verge freaking loved this device. The guy who saw it
Over the moon.
Like you don't usually see this kind of level of excitement from prototype product, especially AR products. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. The price point is going to be about $1,000.
$1,000 for this. Huh.
Yeah, so that's for me. That to me is trouble.
I think we have to suspend price disbelief.
That's true.
When we in this section, because it's like we're talking about mostly prototype type stuff.
It looks okay. And I mean, it's weird. Like, are you gonna see the projection?
You're gonna see like if I was looking at you, I would still see the phantom screen for sure.
You'd see my disinterest in our conversation because I'm looking at something totally different.
That's it. Like if you the promo video for this is hilarious because they are straight-faced, legitimately pitching this as a product that lets you put your phone in your pocket so you can still make eye contact with people while checking social media. Like that's it. That's the sales pitch. Like you can actually get Twitter while looking at someone in the eye, and I don't think that's gonna fly as well.
See,
as
I think
it will.
I think you nailed it. I think there's been a lot of chatter so far about like, oh, AR glasses are here, but they haven't solved the social issue of AR glasses. That still came with Google Glass. They made a more discreet, elegant version of Google Glass, but haven't solved the fact that you're basically giving people a heads-up display so they don't have to pay attention.
Well, for a while, I really thought, I think it's misleading to think that Google Glass failed because of how it looked. I mean, it was basically that social interaction that drove people crazy. It's somebody sitting there, that holier-than-thou kind of thing that kind of comes from somebody who has the cool tech that nobody else has in the room. All that kind of stuff was just all piled onto it, too. And I don't see this dodging that bullet.
All right.
It does look better than Google Glass.
It does.
I would certainly love to see it. One thing that bothers me is it's not stereo, because like Google Glass, it's just in the one eye.
Yeah.
So I really want...
I think both eyes wouldn't be safe.
Yeah, I mean, can you strain one eye versus the other? Will you have that Popeye problem where one eye is just going to have an issue that the other eye won't have because of this?
I just want stereo. I want I want to touch stuff. I want to
that's called VR, man.
No, I want to like I'll forget when your birthday is, and I want it to be above your head. Like that's what I want from AR. So I'm waiting a while.
Ultimately, I think at the end of the day, people want that sort of thing that's going to help them remember people's names when they go somewhere or whatever, or go to the bar and get like their Yelp reviews of everybody in there, or whatever, that kind of stuff. Which is all privacy issues. But this looks like old man glasses too at the same time.
Well, I mean, they look way better than they did like 2 years ago.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And apparently they're comfortable. I'm gonna be slightly cynical about this until I try it for myself.
Yeah.
Okay. How about a TV that actually rolls up into a box?
I love that.
Samsung announced a TV that literally disappears into a box and it rolls into a roll.
It wasn't Samsung. It was LG.
Oh, it was LG. Yeah. Sorry.
So it rolls up like a poster. Like you can put it in a poster tube and then...
Yeah. It's really cheap shipping for this TV.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your carry-on for your nice 50-inch TV.
So it's interesting because it has different levels. Like it'll mat itself to the width of the movie. So,
oh, wow.
So you don't get black boxes anymore.
Yeah.
And it even has a mode where it's ultra widescreen, where it's just used for like information, the weather, and Twitter streams. It's a total prototype. Like LG themselves don't even make TVs. They have to. LG Electronics does. So they'll sell this technology to somebody who'll make a TV out of it. But it's just neat that flexible displays have gotten to this point.
Flexible display, interesting. This application, not interesting.
No.
It's cute and funny. I mean, do you see like an application of flexible displays though that would be interesting?
Board game night.
Oh,
roll it out on the TV, put all your stuff on it, and you have your board games going.
Oh, I like that. So if it's
then you roll it up and put it in the box
just,
with everything else.
It's not just rollable and flexible. It's that it's portable.
Yeah, to me that's exciting because I can lay it out flat and play pinball on it, or I can do whatever. Like I'm looking at the interactive aspects of it versus watching.
That's interesting. Like the old Microsoft Surface prototypes. If you had that in a entertainment device,
and I can put it on any surface in my house rather than having the Microsoft Surface box I have to find a place for. I can put it on my coffee table. And now we're doing stuff
if
that
it's
way.
reactive and it plays games. That would
or
be
I'm
neat.
watching a show and I'm sitting there browsing on my coffee table with this thing laid out flat and like somehow looking up stuff that's going on the show. Or
well, that would work on an iPad just as easily.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
I like the idea of a social board game.
Oh, right.
People gathered around it. Imagine just having those little like Microsoft pucks and playing Warlords with 4 people on a table. With this thing.
Warlords came up last time you were here.
I know. Warlords is always on my brain. Are you kidding me? I'm right now trying
I'm
trying to convince plug and play companies to let me make a Warlords game that they can just ship with four paddles.
Did you see? Oh God, I don't remember all the details of this. Never mind.
Continue. All right. Next product.
All right.
We lamented the loss of the fingerprint sensor last year when Apple switched to Face ID until we tried Face ID and it worked really well. Mm-hmm. But what about a fingerprint sensor that's embedded in the screen? It's not an actual piece of hardware. The screen itself can operate as a fingerprint.
I thought that was impossible. That's why we have Face ID.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that was the reason.
There is a prototype phone called the Vive phone that actually it's a OLED screen that actually takes a photo. I mean, it comes up in a specific point. It seems to use like reflective nature of your fingerprint, a version of a photo. And can do a fingerprint scan on the screen.
With reliability. Yeah.
Who knows? Right. Like this, like we don't have enough information about
Honestly,
that.
Like the
first... But let's extrapolate that. Yeah, let's say it is reliable.
Great, bring it back. Face ID is fine, but Touch ID is better. Bring it back. That's what I want.
I just think of evil things where it's like you have an app that nobody knows when they're touching that's getting their fingerprints and all that sort of stuff to do all kinds of nefarious things with.
Good point.
I might be evil, but like those are the first thoughts that come to my mind.
I mean, you were just talking about Warlord, so you might be.
Yeah.
I think this is really cool.
It's really cool.
This idea is amazing because now we can have edge to edge in a way that still integrates, tactile touching in it.
And this. I always think these weird ideas, but like going back to the Microsoft Surface, this means we can actually have things that we can set on these surface or these displays that can be read as well. It doesn't have to be a fingerprint. It means it's getting fidelity enough that we can place like a little thing on it and twirl it into all stuff and have an interface that's being read that way.
This quick story along the lines of like the Warlords era. Ken Levine tweeted on the 5th that when they started Irrational Games, they very briefly consulted on a reboot of Sinistar.
There was one.
Was there?
Like in the 90s for PC, the first 3DFX cards.
Oh my God.
Like Sinistar Unleashed or something like that.
I don't even know what Sinistar is.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It was a 3D version of Sinistar. Sinistar is great. That's like one of those games that you can still play today and just like see the brilliance of it. But
people are going to school me on what Sinistar is in the comments. I don't remember this.
All right, so just really quickly, you're out in this asteroid field and you're mining ore in these asteroids, and the ore is actually being used by these enemies to build the Sinistar, which is a giant metal skull that tries to eat you when it's fully formed and born.
I love that you go straight for story.
I know. This is the story of this 8-bit arcade game.
So is it like asteroids, but a little bit better?
It's better, and it has like full map that you're traversing, 8-directional. But the scariest part about it is this thing sounds freaky. It has a voice when it comes over, and it's like, I live. And then it starts screaming as it's chasing you, like this shrill scream that just like makes you crap your pants. And like it was a freaky game.
You're not selling me on this game.
You should play it. It's really
novel
controls,
joyful. Right?
It was 22 direction joystick.
Yeah.
So you could just accurately fly in whatever direction by just pointing that way.
Well, all right. Crap my pants is not a good review, though, I'm going to say.
You know, like
all right.
for some people.
Back to CES. Couple more products. Okay, do you guys have multi-monitors at home?
Yes.
For your desktop?
Yep.
How about a bezel kit that you line up your monitors together, you put this little kit, you attach it, it actually, reads the screen and creates this like blended effect, so you can have a seamless monitor across. Probably only works if you have the same monitor.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds interesting to me.
If it's cheap enough.
I mean, that's it just made me realize I could probably 3D print something to line up my monitors better than they are now, which I might do now. But I don't think I need that.
It looks okay in the pictures. You get that blended effect that you've seen, we've seen elsewhere. I think with certain gaming applications, it's interesting. I'm less intrigued about it the way I currently use my monitors, which is basically has like separate screens.
Is this a CES announcement? I mean,
it was at CES.
Like a little plastic piece of like a $10 item.
Yeah, it's Asus came out with it. So not a small company either.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
They believe.
We're gonna get weirder.
Okay.
Razer announced Project Linda. Now, Razer is known for coming out with some interesting hardware.
Yeah.
Project Linda is a laptop dock, but think of a laptop, but instead of the touchpad here, the Razer phone goes in there. And so the Razer phone powers the entire laptop.
What? Really?
It's built on the Snapdragon 835 platform.
All right. Wow.
And you can now use, because your phone is embedded where your touchpad would be, you can use your phone as a mouse in that way, or it can actually operate as a second screen as well.
Okay.
Now, people have used Razer phone to actually do some editing, like Lightroom kind of editing of stuff. So it has a little bit of power to it.
Phones are good now.
Okay, reactions to...
It's definitely neat. I like looking at the pictures. I was actually thinking of applications that would be really fun, where it's like I go into something like Photoshop and I have my color picker go down there and all this stuff, and turning the touchpad into something more useful. Than just navigating is definitely something I'm excited about. And I think again, this is just like the VR thing. People have to make this stuff, and it's just such a one-off product. Like who's gonna invest in this? But I like the idea. The docking looked cool.
How much is it?
I don't know if I saw the announcement of price on it.
Because it has very little smarts in it. It's a display and a port.
It's a display
and a keyboard.
And a battery.
Oh, I thought you said so it also powers the phone. Oh, well, that's good. That's interesting.
Come on.
No,
what are you guys doing?
I thought the phone was powering everything.
This is ridiculous.
No, that's
how are you guys being so positive about this thing?
You know what? This is weirdly, it's kind of intriguing.
No, I think this is very forward thinking.
I think it is forward thinking, but we're not. I don't think that phone has enough power to do anything I want to do with my laptop.
Oh yes, it does.
Not nearly battery life.
Maybe not us.
It can barely power that screen
maybe not
all day.
Us,
How is it going to power another screen?
Think about how many people just use their laptop for Facebook and everything else, and then their phone. They have the two. Like to them, this is a good solution. They can actually do their
for a Chromebook type solution.
Yeah, like a Chromebook thing.
Yeah, even beyond that, we're just a year or two away from it being whatever you want.
We were at the convergence in 2018. Mobile and PC coming into one.
Yeah,
you guys are sponsored by Razer or something. This way, I think it's totally interesting. But
I mean, it comes down to price.
Of course, all of these things.
If it's $100, it's like it makes a lot of sense.
All right, Intel came out with some mini desktop PCs, the NUC, and they have a couple that I think are intriguing. Ones that are running Vega GPUs. AMD Vega GPUs. That feels weird to say Intel is producing a thing that runs on an AMD chip, but whatever.
Okay.
These are the Hades Canyon, which is what it's called. It's powerful enough to run VR in a mini form factor. Can I interest you in a mini desktop?
Right. No. I mean, I suppose you could make it into some sort of backpack VR solution.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, people do that with laptops.
Yeah.
The fact that we have laptops that are VR capable makes me less surprised that this is possible. But what the nukes sell for $300 or so? Maybe,
is it nuke?
Maybe $400. I've always said nuke.
Oh, let's
I
call it
don't know.
Nuke then.
I don't know.
Sorry. This is what Norm hosts, not me.
I don't know. That's cool.
I don't know. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Core i7, lots of RAM.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that small form factor.
I use the Nuke inside my MAME cabinet.
Oh, you do?
A little desktop MAME cabinet, and it works great. I love that it exists.
And it'll be a DIY kit like all of the other ones before it. I'm actually a little higher on this than you guys.
Okay.
I think Backpack VR is kind of interesting. Plus, where did we try Backpack VR here at Tested? We did it at Comic-Con 2 years ago.
Okay.
And it was awful because we put one of those like massive I can't remember who made them. We put a massive laptop in a backpack and carrying it around. It was so heavy.
Yeah. Well, so what's going to win out? Wireless or backpack? Because they don't need each other.
I think wireless will win because I just can't imagine.
That's with the Vive.
But also like I still like the smaller form factor for these nukes, and it's DIY.
All right. So you're saying there was a faster small computer announced at CES.
Yeah.
All right. Good news.
Thanks, Jeremy. How about high-end gaming displays?
Oh, yeah. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is nuts. NVIDIA came out with some supersized gaming displays, 65-inch, 4K, 120 Hz HDR displays.
120 hertz, 4K, 65-inch. The cool thing is, like, they support G-Sync. So,
that's cool.
Like,
yeah.
Because your computer probably can't do 120 4K.
No.
So whatever it can do, the monitor will display.
It'll take care of it.
Yeah.
If you want to watch movies, this will take care of it.
Yeah.
If you want to, I don't know what else.
For those who are really into true motion, that default setting that most people hate in TVs, this
God.
can actually go up to a high frame rate and make it even seem more real and horrible.
65-inch monitor.
They didn't announce a price, I don't think, but these displays must be like,
Out of fear, probably, they
first
should announce a
son.
price.
Yeah, this is a ridiculous level. I mean, they must. I mean, this is one of those things that I actually wish I was at CES to see, because it's something that you can't replicate in video or in a written piece at all. So I'm sad not to see this. No practical application. Though I know Norm is probably hearing this and being like, I want that. I need a 65.
He's justifying it over the next 2 weeks. He'll come back with
what, $8,000? Man,
For something that should be $16,000? Yes.
That's it for CES for now.
Oh,
There's
okay.
probably a bunch more CES that will happen over the next couple of days. We'll have a full rundown of CES next week. Our guest next week will have actually been at CES too, so we can talk a little bit more in depth. 2 tech stories left before we move on.
Okay.
We never talked about Meltdown Inspector. The news broke last week as we were recording about Meltdown Inspector. Let's talk about it. I mean, this was probably the biggest security flaw in computers in years.
I have to be honest, I did not follow this. I saw that Apple released a patch yesterday for Spectre, and I installed it. That's as far as I got. So explain to me what the dangers are.
I'm going to do my sort of simplified version because it gets really technical really fast. But as far as I understand it, that the kernel, as it shares memory processes, can be read through these sort of there's a way that the kernel is trying to predict certain processes and allocates that in a predictable way. So somebody can come in and sort of map those things over time and actually access the memory that it's sort of using and predict everything from now you're in the kernel. So everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything from passwords to
It's like putting together a
behavior.
jigsaw puzzle with like fragments that you get over time, and then trying to see if you can find passwords and other things in there. But
It takes time.
It's an ideological thing that's been around since the 90s, and only now are we really looking at going like maybe that's not good and it could be exploited, and so everybody was affected.
So was it exploited?
I don't think it was actually exploited to any serious.
I don't think we
know.
know.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll tell us for a little while. Because the way I think we found out about Meltdown Inspector were papers coming out.
From Google, right?
Yeah. Basically, and it was a collaboration with I think there was an academic institution, there was Google, there was some other companies involved that all came out and said, here's this vulnerability we've been studying for a while.
Yeah.
So they must know of, I bet they know of
There has been
practical
instances of people attempting this.
Exactly. But the patches came out instantaneously. Like, at least from what I understand, Meltdown is easy to patch against, and Spectre not impossible to patch against. But this, I mean, I don't recall a vulnerability on like the chip level in a long time.
How is it so easily patched at the OS level if it's such a deep vulnerability?
So you can opt in to use this predictive. The way I understand it, you can opt in to use this predictive processing, which makes your system feel faster and punchier. And so you can choose not to use that. You can like go another path, which makes things seem a little slower in some cases, but it still won't use it. So for many, it's like it's almost like forcing the default to not use it. That was like the first most instantaneous way of doing it. And then there's some more nuance and stuff to it and things they had to do, but it could be solved in software a bit, but still anybody who's writing anything can get around that and still try to go to the CPU and force things to go to the CPU, that sort of thing. So ultimately at the end of the day, it's got to be patched, and I think there's a lot of people just complaining about, it's going to hurt performance here and there, but you're not going to really notice, I don't think.
Are game consoles vulnerable?
They are, but again, the things that it was optimizing, I don't think is going to really affect the performance of the games and everything on the platform. So for most, I think it's just gonna be a silent update, and you won't even know you're safe again.
This seemed like when it dropped was one of those like tech journalists lost their mind. They were like, "This is the biggest security story in the past 5 years," and a week later, it's like almost disappeared
because it could get taken care of. And also, I think a lot of people got really excited because this is something new. It's not like a general virus or any of these sorts of things. This is something that's like, nobody thought about this, and it's such an old vulnerability that's been around for so long. Who knows what's happened as a result of it?
Yeah, it's interesting because it wasn't like you could point your finger at Microsoft and say, there's a hole in Windows.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Apple made their first big flop. It's like, nope.
And then everybody's like, we've all subscribed to this technique.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it wasn't just like, Intel screwed up, which it was the way it was launched. Everybody thought, it's an Intel problem. And even AMD and these guys are kind of like, yeah, it's an Intel problem. It's like, no, everybody did it. And Apple came out, like you said, they came out and owned up to it too.
Well, it'll be interesting to track over time. But who knows what's going to happen? I'd be interested to hear from listeners if they know of instances where this has actually been exploited.
Or if they've noticed any detrimental effects from the patches.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people out there right now saying they're seeing all this detrimental effect, but I haven't noticed anything at all. And I'm pretty keen on what's going on with my machine and what kind of performance I need, and I haven't seen anything.
Oh, did Microsoft force an update?
I think so. Well, I had when that all hit, I had updates on everything.
My computer rebooted last night. I wondered why.
That's probably why.
Yeah. That's just owning a Windows 10 PC these days, right? That's
it's once a month.
Random reboots.
Yeah. Even when you say you don't want it.
Yeah, you just come back. One last story, and it's really because Mike mentioned Bridge Crew. VR is one of his favorite games. Bridge Crew is not just VR anymore.
That's right.
Ubisoft ported it so that anyone can play it. And frankly, I don't think that game needed to be VR.
No, it didn't
with
really.
the game mechanic. And I don't think you really use VR. It's really just about immersion and presence in that space. Mm-hmm. So this totally makes sense.
There'll be a lot more players available in the game as well at this rate. So I'm all for that.
Totally.
More people to yell at that they're not performing their tasks admirably, which is our experience at Bridge Crew. Helmsman.
I don't think anybody walks away friends after playing Bridge Crew, really.
Yeah, it's a tough game.
I think we have a message from Norm.
Oh my gosh. Do I have to play audio?
I think we have to play audio. I apologize.
Bear with me. Let's see.
This is going to be interesting.
And bear with him because we have a special segment coming up next.
Bear with him being me or
no? Okay. Bear with us.
Here we go. Please work.
Hey everybody, Norm here, letting you know that this week's episode of This Is Only a Test is brought to you by the podcast The Art of Charm. The Art of Charm is an iTunes Top 50 podcast that's packed with wisdom in the true sense of the word. From how to become more productive and professional to how to read body language, network, and negotiate, it's a show that covers anything to help you become a high performer at home or at work. It brings together interesting people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, and Shaq to discuss things like relationships, life hacking, and success. It's highly addictive and strives to be fun and educational at the same time, so not just stuffy textbook stuff, because personal growth shouldn't be boring all the time. You deserve an extraordinary life, so go to theartofcharm.com/podcast or search for The Art of Charm on iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, and start taking your life to the next level. We really enjoy this show, and think you will as well, and thank them for sponsoring this week's episode. And now back to our show.
So I'm taking advantage of the fact that Norm isn't here to announce our first ever annual Tested Awards, the Testies, if you will. That's not good. That's not good. Not good.
Workshop that.
That's where you play music, right there.
Yeah, that's where you play music. But I was watching the Golden Globes this weekend, and I realized we should have an award show of our own here. And what I've done is come up with a few categories, and we're going to go through and discuss our favorites in these categories. These are down the middle categories. This shouldn't be hard to do. We have 4 awards that we're handing out.
Okay.
4 first ever Testies
Wow.
we're handing out. And the first category is no monologues here. First category is best movie of 2017.
That's easy. That's the only one that's easy for me. Well, I'm sorry, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you said it's that easy.
Your
Let's-
nomination,
yeah.
sir.
Blade Runner. Blade Runner, far and away. This is a year that saw 2 Pixar films, a Star Wars film, and it wasn't even close. Blade Runner, 100% 2049. And I'm not even the biggest fan of the first one. I loved it. I saw this film like a week or 2 late. I was one of 4 people in the theater, and I went home listening to the soundtrack.
You didn't take that as evidence that not that many people agree with you, that 4 people were in the theater with you at Blade Runner?
Dude, that movie should have done so much better than it did. It is blow away. It is just like visually and auditorial amazing.
I'm going to agree with you 100%. It was Blade Runner for me as well. And I liked a lot of movies this year, but Blade Runner, hands down, was a league ahead of everybody else because I went into that. One, as a parent, it's hard to go see a 3-hour movie of any kind. So like it was hard to try to find the time to go do it. And when I went, I was not optimistic at all about doing a sequel to Blade Runner, which is one of my favorite films too. So I'm a little biased here. But I went in expecting so many things, and even seeing things online, I had all these expectations, and it didn't go there, and it surprised me. And it had a deeper level to it than I expected for this to have. I didn't expect Ridley Scott, his involvement in this after seeing Alien Covenant and all these other things, to be able to bring together a team that could pull this off, and they did. I thought they pulled off with flying colors. I've watched it now 3 times. So
Yeah, it's out on home video now.
It's out on home video,
iTunes
so
and HD.
I think that's a movie
4K.
theater movie, though.
it is a movie theater movie. You're absolutely right. Like it's great to experience there, but I still enjoyed it at home just as much. But I'm glad I saw it.
Wow. I'm going to get crowded out here because I thought Blade Runner was good. It was not nearly my top movie. And I haven't seen all of the Oscar movies by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Lady Bird is probably my favorite Oscar contender. I think that was a great, very sweet coming of age movie. And surprising twists and turns. I'll give a nod to Wonder Woman to breaking the DC curse, but empirically it's still not that good of a movie. I think Logan was actually the best superhero movie of 2017. Coco is the one that made me feel the most.
Yeah, I felt that movie. It's good.
And visually spectacular. But my favorite movie, without a doubt, is Get Out.
Oh.
Get Out came out of left field, the most surprising, most impactful. I don't like horror movies, and I loved that movie.
You know, I forgot that was a movie for this year, this last year, and you're right about that. This was as a result of that movie. Now he's Jordan Peele's heading up the new Twilight Zone series, but that movie actually came out of nowhere. I had no idea what it was. I had no expectation going in. Far better than I could have ever anticipated.
99% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
I think that movie. I mean, it's a good movie, but it also benefited by just coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that there's other movies that just had a lot more hype that were probably good. I think Shape of Water is probably going to suffer from that.
Yeah.
Right now,
Which is a beautiful movie.
But it now Guillermo del Toro has won a Golden Globe for it, and it's starting to get that kind of conversation, which I think will hurt that movie. I just think Get Out is the one that I'll watch again too.
I mean, how often do we see a word of mouth movie get so successful? And this really was a word of mouth movie, like you said. The marketing wasn't really there for it,
and
until it was a success already.
And this, as a student of sci-fi and of those types of movies, this felt like a new story too. And in a land where it's just sequels everywhere, this actually felt like a slightly new universe, and I loved it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh
Yeah, I can't wait to see it now.
it's not good. I'm trying to help you out.
Expectations are
Trying
everything.
to help you out. All right, next category: best TV and/or streaming television experience.
Ooh.
I went first last time.
I'll go first.
Yeah,
I wanna give a couple shout outs to Master of None. This year was spectacular in its experimentation with different types of storytelling from that initial black and white episode. If you want to know more about Master of None, just watch every episode. It's still entitled, I think it's Adam's favorite TV show of this year.
Didn't that win a Golden Globe?
Aziz did win a Golden Globe. The Good Place, underrated network comedy, just a brilliant conceit about the afterlife and being heaven or hell and how you get there, and just incredible cliffhanger from season 1. This is from Mike Schur, who worked on The Office, and just really twisted around in season 2. Excellent. My winner, out of nowhere, Legion, which was on FX, which is a sort of a mutant story, but really different type of mutant story. And that's why I think it's my favorite, is that it didn't rely on their powers to tell an interesting story.
Yeah.
It told an interesting story, and then people with powers were involved in it. And I think people have forgotten about Legion because it was in February. I think it came out.
Well, I'll come out of left field. I did like. I haven't seen Legion, so now that's the one I'm gonna go and have my homework on. But my second runner-up was probably Orville.
Oh,
Because that's one where I was expecting Family Guy meets Star Trek.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I had no hope for it.
That's why I still haven't watched it, because I can't get past that.
I know, and it took me 3 to 4 episodes to finally realize, like, oh, this is great.
Yeah,
and then
I keep
the
hearing that.
stories get better and better.
Yeah.
And it's so much better than Star Trek Discovery to me that like it's the Star Trek show I want.
if you like TNG, Orville is totally for you, because it tells a very similar style of story. I still feel like the Orville suffers from like having 1 or 2 of those Seth MacFarlane jokes in every episode.
That's
if they
his
just
biggest problem.
Get rid of them, it would be great.
It doesn't need them at all. It just, the show stands on its own, doesn't need any of that. But that was my kind of my runner up, because I was just another out of nowhere kind of thing where expectations were completely flipped. I like really funny, dumb things, and for me, the second season and final season of Vice Principals was amazing. If you haven't seen Vice Principals yet, this is basically the conceit is, what if the faculty of a school had the high schooler mentality, and as the students who were like the adults and the mature. Like, that's kind of the setup. It's just joke after joke. It's 2 vice principals vying to become principal of a school and doing whatever it takes, whether it's to kill anybody or whatever. It's just like, this is not set in reality. It's completely absurd, and it has I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, Danny McBride, and Jody. There's a Jody, forgot his last name, I think. His or her last name, who's the show creator. Danny McBride and this other show creator have worked on several shows together. I think they went all the way back to like his first movie debut or whatever it was. And this is probably their best work, because they develop these characters in this absurd situation that actually, no matter how horrible they are, if they burn somebody's house down or whatever, you still empathize with these characters and you're rooting for them. It's the most bizarre thing. By the end of it, I'm like, it's like Seinfeld, right? Like, they're all horrible people, and at the end, the show kind of shows that this show is horrible every week, and it's hard for people to watch. It takes 2 episodes to finally be like, oh, I get what they're doing. But the acting is superb. Walter Coggins, who he was in Justified, I think, and a couple other awesome shows. He's a great actor. I can't believe they had him in this. Or Bill Murray, who kicks it off in the first season. Can't believe these people were in it.
Yeah.
And they helped set up one of the funniest shows I've seen in the last few years.
It is hard to get into, but it's brilliant. And Jody Hill is the
Jody
name.
Hill, that's it, yeah.
And I think it just got buried by the HBO effect. Like Game of Thrones on top of Westworld, on top of Curb coming back. I think it got lost in the shuffle, and like Silicon Valley, all of that other stuff. And HBO doesn't make terrible shows.
They don't.
Well,
and this is evidence
especially
of that.
Comedies.
Is that on HBO?
It's on HBO, and it's worth binging. Almost everybody I know who comes into it late, they regret not following it before. And they set out to make only 2 seasons. They knew exactly what they wanted to do and what the arc was going to be. And it's got great mystery built into it and everything too, as absurd as it is. It's awesome.
So that's your favorite show?
It's my favorite show.
We almost watched that last night. So that's on our queue. I would defer to both you guys, because I watch so little TV.
How is it not Stranger Things 2 and you just walk away?
Well,
just say it.
I was leading there. I was going to
Ruined it.
I was going to give a nod to Star Trek Discovery for being 10 times better than I thought it would be.
That's true.
Even though it's not as good as I want it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a walk away. Stranger Things 2.
Yeah, which I think we all agree Stranger Things 2 doesn't live up to the first season because it can't.
You really,
all the novelty is gone.
Stranger Things first season had going for it because it didn't exist before.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
so much more impact because of that. But now that it's been out there, 2 could never live up to that.
All right, Mike, this is your category for sure. Well, Jeremy, this is your category too.
Okay.
Best
Mainly
game
mine. Yeah,
of
mainly.
2017.
It's really your turn to go first, and this is
My
the
turn to go
appropriate,
first.
appropriate
All right.
category.
Well, it's so hard because there were so many great games actually last year. But I'm going to, based off the amount of time I put in and the amount of fun I had, which I always have to remind myself, like, it's all about how much fun, how much am I laughing and having a great time, and how inclusive is it? Mario Odyssey.
No kidding.
Wow.
Mario Odyssey. We stuck to that in our family till the bitter end. We got everything perfect in that game. And I forgot how fun games could be because Mario, to this point, has been so predictable that I actually questioned whether or not I would even play it. And everything else that came out, like PUBG, Battlegrounds, and everything, which is awesome. All those things are great. Felt, they're just derivatives at the end of the day. Really good derivatives, but whatever. And Mario is should be the ultimate derivative, but there was so much innovation in that game and what they did with the genre to flip things around and so much homage, but yet new thrown into the game that it blew me away.
They added a hat. I mean, that's a huge leap.
I'm
kidding.
so
I'm kidding.
I was so against that hat from the moment I saw it. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing. They're ruining Mario. And then the New Donk City. I'm like, oh, so Mario is not human. What's going on here? Whatever. It all works. It just works so brilliantly, and I can't believe it did.
So I pleasure delayed Mario Odyssey and put it on my Christmas list.
Yep.
I finally got it 3 weeks ago, and I'm enjoying it. But I think I maybe should have jumped in it in the beginning because there's been so much positive hype that it's not quite living up to it yet.
Yeah.
However, I'm not that far. I'm still in the deserty. No, I guess I'm 4 worlds, but I haven't explored any of the worlds. There's a lot. And if I have one complaint, it's that there is so much exploration.
There is a lot.
Which I don't expect from a Mario game. I expect plenty of Easter eggs.
Yep.
But not true open world exploration.
Zelda was my number 2 essentially here.
Yeah.
I can't. There's a reason. We'll lead up to this later with another question. But Switch dominated for me.
Yeah.
This year and gaming on the Switch, and it wasn't because games were better on the Switch or anything like that. It's just that, well, in the case of Zelda, yes, and Mario, but generally not. It's just. It was such a joy to use that device and the interaction and everything with it. And I think Mario benefits from that quite a bit. And because you're only so far as you are in Mario right now, there's so many things that happen in this game that you're going to be experiencing soon that really flip the table. And I'm so... I wish I could talk to you about it now because there's some good stuff. And you can tell by the end of this game where they're coming from, why they started, and why they went where they went with the exploration and everything. You'll suddenly have a realization.
I gotta say, I love the 8-bit stuff, and not just for the style that they actually go flat, but the fact that the music changes.
Yeah.
And it fades seamlessly.
And your costumes you wear go in there too.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so if you're wearing the wedding dress or whatever, and now Mario with the wedding dress is in there, they went through...
That's a lot of brute force work.
They did a lot of brute force work in this game, and it just doesn't stop. It gets more... you'll see more and more of that as you go. It's so much labor put in that game.
I just had a real nerdy question about the 8-bit stuff. Is the music authentic? Do they use the right...
Yes, it is. So they actually did use the right instruments and everything. So it's they went for it. And they used the right palette colors and everything too.
Okay.
So they went all in. And this is
that detail.
This is a new Nintendo we're seeing. It's a very young Nintendo. These were all people that were from what I've read, it sounds like a lot of these people are averaging in their 20s, and they're bringing them all in who are who also have not really developed games before. So Miyamoto and his team are bringing in people who are bringing life experiences into these games the way that they did back in the day, and just setting them out there. So you see things like Splatoon coming out of these groups, ARMS, Zelda, the way it's being played, because these are the things that they think it should be versus what it's always been. So they're trying to reinvigorate all their IP.
I think there was a story recently that talked about how Miyamoto really doesn't look for people that love video games per se, as much as people that have interesting, diverse life experiences.
Exactly.
Well, I'm gonna claim Zelda if you're not.
Yeah, it's a toss-up.
Because I was absolutely in love with that game. I mean, it came out so long ago now.
I know.
But it was like a launch title for the Switch, right? And I got it then, and I haven't done that. I couldn't tell you last time I played a game like that, where 2 weeks of my life was spent playing a game. I felt like a teenager again.
Yeah.
And I got lost in that world, and I felt like it was unbelievable the fact that they crammed a single player game into an MMO scope of a world that you could explore and spend the rest of the year exploring. And I was absolutely amazed. Love that game. I'm in the contingent that feels like it's not just the best Zelda game ever, possibly a contender for best game of all time. And so props to the Zelda team. I don't expect to play another game of that level for a generation because it's taken that long.
Yeah.
Last time I played a game like that was probably Ocarina of Time in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this was, like you said, this was a good year. I mean, we didn't even mention like Wolfenstein and Destiny 2.
Which are great.
Those are good games. I want to give a shout out to Cuphead, which I thought was one of the most visually interesting novel games to come out in a long time.
Can you progress?
Completely frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, cannot play
How far are you?
Not.
Okay.
Like, that's the only way to put it. I'm gonna steal what I thought Jeremy would say. Let Lone Echo and Echo Arena, just for the pure experience of having that 0G VR experience, and that feeling of just totally losing yourself in a game like I haven't had in any other game this year.
Yeah, I didn't know you played it enough. We have never played together. So
no, we haven't.
I would love to do that.
I totally enjoy it. I'm terrible at it. I kind of joined up like a couple weeks too late where people were already progressing past my skill level. So I think that's the biggest knock I would have against the game is that people got good. And so it's hard to play the Echo Arena as much.
That's the modern game experience for me in general. Like Battlefront 2, same thing. People got good before I could play it. Battlegrounds,
PUBG, where there's so many players, it's still a little like that.
Do you remember the first time you played an FPS with a mouse? For me, it was Quake. Some people played Doom with a mouse.
I played Doom with the mouse.
And for me, that was a game changer. Like, especially where you could look up. Like in Quake, you could look in any direction. And it completely altered my experience of playing a game. And I feel like Echo Arena and Lone Echo did that for VR.
That's awesome.
They figured out what we call locomotion, the way you move around the world in a way that is not nauseating and completely immersive. It's really cool.
On to our last category, your best piece of hardware for 2017. And I want you to open your mind. It can be any piece of hardware, any tangible, real-world thing that you loved. It could be a prop. It could be clothing, for goodness sake. But best piece of hardware. I think we know where Mike is going.
Yeah, that's why we'll just wait out because we all know my answer.
Just go for it.
Is it Switch?
Switch. It was the Switch. Once again.
Did you travel a lot?
I didn't travel a lot, but the use pattern in our house allows us to not fight anymore because somebody can take the Switch and go in the other room. They can have their friends in the other room and do whatever.
Do you have just one?
We just have one in the house.
All right, very good.
So when the Switch is being used, the Xbox is on the TV proper, and then meanwhile the kids go in their room and play whatever on the Switch. But watching the effect of the Switch happen in this the generation that my children are in how much it reminds me of the older generation I was in, with the idea that they're all getting together to play Mario Kart in a room with multiple Switches and all that sort of stuff. It's just that's cool, but then the Switch and the hardware itself made that brought a level of innovation to it that I had not anticipated. I don't know what it is about being able to grab that system and play Zelda on the can or in the bathroom, right? Or any of this. It's just that experience and that portable, it rendered the 3DS useless to me. I just decided I'm not going to use that anymore. And also, we play probably the Switch more than we play even Xbox or PlayStation 4, which boggles my mind completely. And now you see things like Doom, which shouldn't be on the Switch. It has no reason to be on the Switch, but it's on there and it's playable. It's not as good as I would have on a PC.
You mean from a technical standpoint?
Yeah, from a technical standpoint, it's achieved what it was supposed to do and everything like that. And there's people playing it and enjoying it, and it's not that problem where it's if they ported Doom to the 3DS, where you're oh, this doesn't belong here, and it's obvious why, and look at it. No, it's it's fully play. You can play it and enjoy yourself on it. The controls for those kind of things, I think that's the wrong approach that people should be doing, is bringing PC games over to Switch. But the fact that Skyrim and all stuff is on there just points to the success of that platform. Rocket League's great on it.
I bet
it's fantastic.
Rocket League is fun. I've played on Rocket League on the Switch. It's great. I mean, having portable Rocket League That's a game that should be portable.
Yeah. It felt like Rocket League was meant to be on the Switch when you play that. And we're seeing more and more games like that. And I think right now a lot of developers are putting Switch first in their game development choice. And so because of that, things you can do. The local play, like you don't need to be online. You can have people do local play and come with some great gameplay experiences with that.
I love that it's not that it's novel without requiring motion controllers.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like, I mean, the Wii was awesome for Wii Sports. But with the fact that we can get cross-platform development, including the Switch, being the mobile platform, is fantastic. Plus, I don't know. I mean, just looking down the line, eventually when we want to emulate it, it's going to be a lot easier because it's going to be able to be done on a gamepad.
Yep.
And I'm super excited for that too.
I'm going to jump in and say because it's a cheat. I'm going to say the Falcon 9 was the best hardware of 2017. 18 launches, 15 attempts to land a rocket onto a barge or on a pad somewhere, 15 out of 15 successes, 18 out of 18 launches successfully. That's only going to rapidly increase. What they're doing to decrease the cost of space travel is amazing. So what they've done with hardware is just beyond exceptional. That's a cheat, but I'm cheating.
Okay.
Sir, your best hardware?
All right. So next time you launch a satellite, I know who you're going to call.
Well, I probably can't afford it.
For me, I'm going to go in a weird direction too. It's not computer just stuff. Oh, it is in a way. That's a combination toss-up between the my new 3D printer, the Prusa, the i3 MK2S, and the Glowforge. Both of which they have transformed my shop into a factory. I mean, I could make anything now. I feel so empowered by these two devices. The laser cutter, the Glowforge, finally being an accessible, reasonably priced laser cutter. And the 3D printer blowing away my expectations for what a 3D printer, how well it can print and how reliably it can print. I just feel empowered, and I feel like this is indicative of this era that we're in, this maker era, and it's never been, this good. And I'm very happy with both of those devices.
That's good to hear about the Glowforge. I haven't heard you talk about the Glowforge as much recently
because I haven't used it as much. But whenever I do, it's perfect. It works very well. And it's very easy to use.
And if anyone is looking for a great example of what you've done with the Prusa, there's videos on the site, but you also just uploaded the file for the Hoth badge that you helped Danica print for her new Leia Hoth jacket.
Norm presented her with the Hoth jacket for
awesome.
Christmas. They made a limited run of these. I don't know if you saw that. But
I did. I was so tempted.
So Norm got himself the Han Solo, got his wife the Leia, and I made them the Hoth badges. Yeah,
that's awesome.
4-color.
Which is great. That will wrap up the testies for this year. If you have more suggestions for categories in 2018, I will make this an annual edition. And if you didn't like it, we'll just cancel the show. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. No big deal. And then you don't have to worry about who's hosting it. Are they going to talk about politics too much?
So much clicking to get to it anyways.
Exactly. We have one more segment before we wrap up, and we're going into a moment of science. And we're here.
Transition.
It's weird without audio cues, but we're just doing. Really just one story this week, and it comes from NVIDIA, who had a feature in the New York Times because they've been experimenting, and we've seen stories about this for a while, about them training AIs to generate fake photos that appear real. So I want both of you to click on the story if you have it, because we're going to take a quiz.
Is it in Slack?
It's in the show notes.
It's in the show notes right here.
Oh, I don't have that open.
Okay. Well, Mike is doing that.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that, basically it came up with this interesting model, which was they were going to create two AIs, two neural networks. And the idea of how they were going to iterate on this is one of the networks was designed to make stop there, Mike, on that page. One of the AIs was designed to make a fake photo. And the other one was essentially there to see if it could tell if it was fake or not.
Okay.
And so it would keep running until the other AI couldn't figure out whether it was fake or not. And that's how they were able to iterate so fast. So there are two images up on the screen, and I'll put a link to the show notes if you guys want to play along. Jeremy, take a look at Mike's screen.
Okay.
Which one of those two photos, these are meant to look like celebrity photos, which one of those two photos is generated by AI?
What do you mean generated?
It's a completely fake photo generated from nothing.
So completely fabricated.
Completely fabricated.
This is so crazy.
And describe what you're seeing for those that aren't bringing it up. They look like good photos, right?
Yeah, they're both completely pass-through photos.
I just got the answer from clicking on it.
Mm-hmm.
They're both.
They're both.
Both.
They're both generated.
Okay, that's tricky.
And if you scroll down farther in the article, you can see that over time, and it usually takes about like 18 hours of development, they can go from something that looks just sort of like pixelated goo into something that looks akin to a real picture. And so this is both interesting from the technological development of it and how they're able to manipulate the AIs to sort of work off each other to sort of feed into a learning process. But also it's scary as hell that we're getting to the point where AIs can generate photos that are undetectable by humans. And our visual acuity has always been held up as one of the big evolutionary advantages we have over AIs.
No, hold on now. We see things in motion. So
Yes.
if I show me an AI that can create a video,
Yeah, that's the real test, right?
But so what
that earlier one looked like Shannon Doherty's eye on the left, and like,
So to be fair, what we've seen the development in the past year is, if you include this, we've seen the ability to generate photos really well, and we covered the audio AI development that Adobe did, the Coco or whatever it was called, where they're able to clip together.
That's awesome.
An Obama speech. So we're not at video yet. No question, we're not there yet. But isn't that going in that direction? We have photo and audio. Now we're trying to put motion together. And when you combine that with sort of the science fact of like when it comes to our ability to detect what's real or fake and faces, generally we do a really good job when it's a face we recognize. Actually do a really great job when it's a face we recognize.
Yeah.
If it's somebody unfamiliar,
it's harder.
We have a really hard time doing it.
I get you. And you know, maybe what you're indicating is that this is a step towards computer learning solving the uncanny problem, the uncanny valley problem. Because that's what we see. Whenever I see Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy or Tarkin.
Or, even Rachel in Blade Runner was a little weird to me, even though I thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it's just the illusion falls apart. But if computer learning can be applied to that problem, maybe that's the way forward.
Yeah, I think we'll finally get enhance too.
Yeah, well, they're already working on that, right? Like adding extra detail into low-res photos. Is
that
surprising?
Right?
Yeah. And so that's surprisingly good. They take 320 by 240 photos and make them look like 16K photos, and the detail is uncanny.
We're going to have to talk about this a bunch next week because Intel just yesterday started talking about voxels over pixels.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is that detail thing. It's a whole big topic we're not going to get into this week.
I want to ask one question because it's intriguing. Is the detail manufactured, or if they look at the original, like if they had the original 16K photo, would the detail...
It's manufactured.
It's manufactured, so it doesn't match what's actually there.
It's not the real thing, but it gets like really close. Yeah, it gets really close.
Huh. That is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'll finally look better.
They're trying to use it
in the detail.
They want to up-res like old YouTube videos and all this stuff with this
yeah.
technology so that it can be
This
modernized.
is a fascinating article in the New York Times. It's not a new story per se. Like NVIDIA's been pretty open about this, and other projects have been working on this, as other companies have been working on this as well. But it's a fun test to take on the New York Times site. Two quick stories. R.I.P. to John Young. He was the initial pilot of the Gemini mission, and he took 6 flights to space, 7 if you count that trip to the moon where he walked on the moon for about 20 hours. There's only 5 people alive now that have walked on the moon.
And did you know his name before he died?
John Young, yeah.
I did not know his name. And I was telling my wife that the day that I saw the announcement, like, how do we all not know his name? Somebody, what an explorer.
I mean, for me, like, all of those astronauts were heroes.
Yeah.
For me. But you know, I'm a science nerd, and like Challenger, like I think we've talked about this before. I remember where I was when Challenger. I remember the TV being, wheeled into my audience room, and from there, I've always had a love affair with astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's weird that they're not household names, but almost all of those guys at that time, they were like, they're ex-military. They're not really. Buzz Aldrin's the weirdo of the group. Like most of them are really low key, have not wanted to have much of a public personality. And John actually stayed at NASA till like the mid 2000s. And so dude was, I think, 86 when he passed away just now. So like he was working at NASA like nearly till 80. Just had like a 40-year career there. And guys like that, I think they're there not for the celebrity of being an astronaut. They're there because all they wanted to do was fly.
Yeah. I don't think we need to know their name for their benefit. I just feel like they should be celebrated.
Ariel Waldman, who just launched a new show on Tested, she wrote a book that was all interviews with astronauts talking about their experiences in space. And it's a wonderful read if you want to hear just in their words what astronauts really experience out there. And lastly, this is premiering Wednesday night on PBS stations around the U.S. and hopefully in other countries as well. It's called Black Hole Apocalypse, featuring one of my favorite scientists, Janet Levin, talking about just all sorts of things about black holes and how they might be the anchor of our universe in and of itself. With that, we'll wrap up A Moment of Science. Anything to mention in things that you've been testing before we wrap up this week's show?
Testing. No, not that I can think of. Nothing major. Like anything you can talk about that you've been testing, or anything.
This is like where I can fit in little hobby things that are going on.
Yeah.
So like, I've actually been recently playing around with. There's an adapter by this company called. Let's see, what are they called? They're Tinmouth, based out of the UK. And it's you can take a hollowed out Commodore 64, the machine I grew up programming and learned how to program on.
Heck yeah.
And you can connect the keyboard and the joystick ports to it and then run out a USB cable to your PC or a Raspberry Pi. So yesterday I spent time putting the Raspberry Pi into a Commodore 64 shell, connecting the keyboard, doing everything there. And there's a Raspberry Pi image you can find online called the Combian 64 image. It takes only a few seconds. You turn it on. And black screen just as long as the Commodore 64 has, and now you're in the Commodore 64, but now you can put everything that's ever been on it on that SD card, and you can program directly with it, and switch between all the Commodore computers from Commodore PET, the Commodore VIC-20, +4, and all that sort of thing.
Emulation is solid?
Emulation is absolutely solid. It's really punchy and really fast, and it uses the original Atari joysticks and Commodore joysticks that plug right into the serial ports and uses that as the interface. It's unbelievable, because that's one of my favorite machines, and there's a book that you should get to go along with that that's actually called, what's it? It's the Retro Game Dev book by Derek Morris. And in that book, you don't have to have the Raspberry Pi Commodore 64. There's an IDE that he points to that you can download that has it has the emulation and everything all built in, and it has like a Microsoft Visual Studio sort of IDE. And you can program Commodore 64 games today. Like my son's doing that right now and actually able to create cool things in this.
Using the C64 language?
Using the C64 language.
Wow.
And
in Visual Studio?
Yeah, well, no, it has its own IDE, so you can actually develop sprites in this IDE and everything for the Commodore 64. It's all built into this tool.
Wow.
And then export your game. It'll run on real hardware or just in an emulator. And so when you're talking about people who are getting into game development, this is like the Pico 8 or anything like that, but you're using a real old machine to do it too.
But it sounds onerous, no?
No, it's not. It's super simple. Like this is actually, it's remarkable how many people have been learning how to program through old PCs and old computers like this, because when you turn it on, you can instantly start programming.
That's when you
and
start
there's
programming.
Resources everywhere online. So if you want to make like my son wanted to make a Pong game, he just looks it up and there it is.
Basically basic, right?
It's basic, and then these books here tell you how to do everything else, from like doing all the audio to the music to doing assembly language. And if you think about it, these are really simple languages, far easier than what you kind of deal with today. And the thing that's been slowing it down has been the interface on the Commodore 64 itself. But now that with this IDE, you can use a PC interface and just do it, and you do it really quick. And like I said, it's like the Pico 8 or the Kano computer kit or any of that sort of stuff. It's all there. It's all available for you. It's all collated into one spot, and this book is a really good starting point for that. But then there's all these new games coming out for the Commodore 64. One just launched called Galencia, which is like this Galaga version of Galaga on steroids. That's super fun, and it looks great, and it plays great. It's very modern, and that's coming through on a Commodore 64, which blows my mind. So
that's awesome.
This is like the hobby stuff I'm kind of into. Like next up is like an Atari 800 and get that hooked up with a Raspberry Pi. But
I always wanted a C64, but I ended up, and I'm not complaining, I ended up getting a PC Junior from my grandmother in '84, and so I became PC nerd from forever. But I loved the C64, and they always had the best games. Like they had even better games than the PC Junior.
And they're still playable today, which blows my mind. And I'm actually, in my old age, I've learned to let go of nostalgia a little bit, where it's like, yeah, some games are just terrible, and I'll just have to accept that. But some of these really age well. And with this, the interface and everything like that, paddle controls and all that stuff are things that you don't have anymore. It's fun to kind of go back and experience those games.
How do you feel about using training little kids on game design and programming. Do you think that that's the right way to go? Because that's not an applicable language. Like
it's not very applicable.
They can learn fundamentals.
I think fundamentals is really all you get out of this, but Scratch is still probably the best way to start somebody off, and just something simple.
I feel like that's too simple. Like it's
too simple, but it's super accessible.
Yeah.
You can get right on. You can just get on a Chromebook and start making games.
I feel like Scratch is great before you like hit the age of 10.
Yeah.
And then you have to start ramping up.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm torn because my son is 10 and his school is still using Scratch for that age, and I want them to go further than that.
They need to step up at that age.
Yeah.
At that point. Yep.
Yeah, to what?
That's the hard part. This is something that nobody's really solved very well yet, because
Game Maker,
sure. But again, that's a little bit more removed than what you really want. If you want somebody to learn like really practical skills, you're really going to have to either learn C# and jump into Unity and start playing around with that sort of thing, or like JavaScript or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's no like this goes back to the Commodore 60. The reason the Commodore 64 is kind of interesting to me is like you would turn it on, you had every tool you needed. It was all integrated and ready to go. This is the hard part right now for kids, is like there's no integration, and you have to go out and find all these pieces to pull together, and there's no one way to do it. And so it's just super challenging.
I think there's a way to do Python that's not super complicated.
The Love game language, Love 2D, that's a really good one to start with. It's Lua based, and there's so many examples for people to kind of like learn logic and everything else that's applicable to C and everything else beyond that.
Not games, but there's some really cool stuff from Adafruit recently that is Python based.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically you plug it in as a USB, and it shows up as a drive with a file on it that is a Python file, and you change that and run it, and it just runs like it.
That's great.
So you don't have to worry about your platform because it just runs natively on whatever the thing is. Like it's got lights and sound and sensors on it. It's a great way to learn Python.
Have you guys played around with the Kano computer kit for kids?
No.
So I got my son that for Christmas.
It's the buildable thing?
It's the buildable computer. So it uses Raspberry Pi, but it comes with a keyboard. And so he went through the whole process. He built the computer, put it all together, hooked up to a TV. And then I think the best part about this whole package is they've created an image file for the Raspberry Pi that walks you through everything about programming. So they teach you how to hack Minecraft. They teach you how to program in Scratch. They teach you how to program in C, all this stuff. And it's all built in this one image file, which you can just download off their website and use with any Raspberry Pi. But the steps going through there, he's been actually developing some really cool things in that. And it had far more than I expected.
That's awesome. I'm testing one thing. Adam is going out on tour in Australia soon, and I've reached a point where I leveled off in my Infinity Gauntlet build, but Adam said, come into the shop, finish that Infinity Gauntlet build.
While he's out of town?
Yeah.
And clean up.
Well, I think
don't make a mess.
I think there's some obvious components. It's just because I'm in this stage where I'm hammering a lot of stuff by hand, and my wife is not enjoying that sound in our house. But it's completely made out of brass and
wow,
that's awesome.
Heavy.
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, because the gauge of the brass makes a difference, right? And the way I'm building Gauntlet has a glove in it so that it forms a shape. I don't know why I'm using my right hand because it's a left-handed thing. But it's going well so far. It's just slow going because I'm shaping a gauntlet by hand with like dapping tools and stuff. It's one of the more satisfying projects I've ever worked on, though.
Okay.
Just because there's no like fancy gizmos here. There's no incredible tool sets. It's like a set of hammers and a piece of metal. Get to work.
When do our friends at home get to see this?
Maybe May 4th, 2018, when I'm in line for Infinity War.
Wow.
Just debuts.
You're not going to make it for Black Panther? What?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
Wrong movie.
It's the same world.
That silence was deafening for a reason.
All right. There's
in
a
any case,
new trailer for Black Panther.
That looks good.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Soon. Thanks so much for joining us this week on This Is Only a Test and putting up with our slight technical malfunctions this week.
You know,
we'll get it corrected.
I think what's going on is that it's phase canceling. I think we're hearing everything that's not stereo.
Sure.
That's what
I'm sure this is the least interesting part of this podcast.
So for the next 20 minutes of the podcast.
There's like 4 people out there saying that's exactly what's going on. He figured it out.
No, there's another 3 people that are like, no, that's not what it is.
You're probably right. It's probably 50 people.
Next week, we'll be back with special guest Shannon Morris, who hosts Tech Thing, who's at CES right now, to do a full recap of what's happening at CES. Jeremy and I will be back. There's a lot of stuff untested going on right now. The launch of Offworld, Ariel Waldman's new sci-fi movie series. They did. They talked to Jill Tarter about Contact.
Oh, wow.
and the Jodie Foster character is based off of her. Norm just put up a review of The Shaper. More stuff coming shortly this week. But with that, we'll say goodbye because there will be no outro this week. because Jeremy says phase canceling is what's happening.
We care about your ears.
I hope you enjoyed the testes, and we'll see you next week.
Adios.
Bye.